you have the stuffy nose and the sniffles and the sneezes and all that. Aww. So my student wasn't feeling super great today, but she was a great sport, and I told her that I would be real gentle with her in our lesson today. Well, how about I be really gentle with you today since you're not feeling good? So do you have lesson 52 in front of you? Mm-hmm. Do you? Now that sight word, that is a tricky one because there's so many words with that O-U-G-H that are sight words. And sight words mean that they break the rules. They don't really make the sound that you would think, or that it's very difficult to sound those out. Now this one has a T on the end and it rhymes with thought. So I'm setting her up for success here, giving her as clear a hint as possible so that she will get the word correct. Can you use thought in a sentence?
I have not thought of an idea. I've not thought of an idea about the school.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and go to the sight word page. Can you read through these sight words for me?
Thought, blue, love, world, change, move, gone, thought, do, thought, wild, because, world, thought, fine, gone, thought, should, blue, answer, a blue, you, and any thought, love was their thought, lose.
You are so good at that last word, lose. That is such a hard word for a lot of people. And you also got the second to last word on the second to the bottom line that starts with an A. That one's kind of... I didn't want to tell her which word she got correct because I wanted to give her an opportunity to read it again because I knew it was a little challenging, so I wanted her to read it again correctly.
Any?
Yep, see how good you are at that? So you can find that sight word in sentence number 1. Can you go to sentence number 1 and circle that one? In the Learn Reading lessons, we have them circle sight words, underline new words, and box vocabulary words on their sentences page, so when they get to that page, it is not scary, but they know that they have already read most of the words on that page. Okay, so your graph theme this week in this lesson is Y, and you've already learned that the most common sound for Y at the end of a multi-syllable word like baby, crazy, happy, silly, is usually what sound?
Like E?
That's the most common sound for a Y. And Y will usually come at the end of those longer words, a word with more than one vowel in it that's not touching. But when Y comes at the end of a one-syllable word, that only has, when Y is the only vowel. Now, Brooklyn, I'm going to ask you, when is Y a vowel? When it's not the first what?
Letter.
You got it. You remembered. High five. Nice. Yes, so Y is a vowel when it's not the first letter, which means in a word like cry, try, shy, buy, my, Y is the only vowel in that word. And when that happens, then, and it's at the end, Y will say it's the long I sound. It'll say I. So that was a lot of direct instruction. So in a minute here, I'm going to ask her to be the teacher and me to be the student so that she can teach me. This is a good way for me to assess if she has comprehended what I've been trying to teach her. So when Y is at the end of longer words, it'll probably say E. When Y is at the end of shorter words, it'll probably say I. So can we pretend that I am the student and you're the teacher for a minute?
Yes.
Teacher, I don't know when Y says E and when Y says I.
When Y says...
Feel free to be generous with your hints. It's important that the student hears themselves say it correctly and doesn't guess.
Usually in the short letter, words, and the E is at the end of like longer words.
I get it! Teacher, I have one more question about Y. When is Y a vowel?
Y is So why is vowel when it's not the first letter?
Oh my goodness, it's so easy. You are such a good teacher. Now I get it. Y is a vowel when it's not the first letter. And when it's at the end of short words, it says I. When it's at the end of longer words, it says E. Well done. So this lesson happens to be a doozy. Y has a bunch of different rules and it's not easy to learn. So here I'm going to give her permission to find what she is learning difficult. In this lesson, Y is going to say I. So there's going to be a lot of little short words. But here's the thing, Brooklyn. I want to tell you this because it stinks that there's so many rule breaker rules in our language, but it just is. So sometimes Y will say I at the end of longer words. I'm sorry. I wish it was just 100% of the time Y will say E at the end of longer words, but sometimes, once in a while, not very often, Y will say I at the end of longer words. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for Y being such a monster sometimes, but you'll see that it says Y at the end of longer words. Sometimes it says I, like in multiply, justify, rectify.
What is that?
I don't know. We had to take a minute and look up rectify. Find rectify. So sometimes Brooklyn Y will say I at the end of longer words. And sometimes it'll even say I in the middle of words, like in bicycle. So when you come to the Y in this lesson, you're like, that's all right, got it, I can handle it. So here's the thing, when you don't know, you're going to do what's most common. This is one reason why we teach the graphemes and phonemes in frequency order, so they know which sound is most common for every letter. So when they go to decode an unknown word, they will try the most common sounds first. The E sound first, flapanfully. And then if that doesn't turn into a real word, then you'll use the I sound. So when you come to a word that you don't know, try the most common sound first. And if that's not, doesn't make a real word, then you're going to try the I sound. Okay, you ready to try this? Oh, I said I was going to be gentle with you today because you didn't feel good, huh? Okay, I will. I'll be so gentle. We'll go slow. All right, are you on your new grapheme page, page 3? Okay, when you come to the Y on these pages, since our new sound is I, let's say the I sound when you get to that grapheme.
I, or.
That one's a kind of a hard one. We had that one recently. Think of outside.
Ow. I, E, L, R, I.
Oh my goodness, that was beautiful. Good job. I can hear your little sniffles. How are you doing, Brooklyn? Not so good. Do you need a drink of water or anything? I can take some lessons from this sweet girl working so hard when she's not feeling well.
Not like the baby on the next page.
Not like the baby on the next page. That's right. That baby's not too cheerful, are they?
No.
Okay, let's try finding the I sound. Now you're so good at these. Let me hear you break these sounds apart.
I.
Brooklyn really is a rock star on this phonemic awareness page. She's so good at breaking every single sound apart, especially when the second letter, either from the beginning or to the end, is an R or an L. Those are really hard for a lot of kids to break off, but she does it beautifully.
I.
Dry.
I. The last one.
And fry.
I. The last one.
Well, you're so good at breaking off those ers. A lot of kids have a hard time with that. It's hard for some kids to not say der as one sound or fur as one sound, but you're really good at breaking off every single sound. Well done. Don't forget to tell them what they are doing correctly. It really helps to retain correct information. And let's face it, it just feels good to know what you're doing right.
Cry, shy, life, notively,
Can you tap 2 on the O?
notively.
How did you know that the O said O? I'm going to take just one error at a time. Very good. Now that Y at the end is going to say what again in this lesson?
E and I.
Good job. And now right before the Y, there was an L that snuck in there. Try it again and make sure that there's no L in there.
Notify.
Perfect. Please always remember to tell them the error, not the word, so that they can figure out how to read the word on their own.
Supli.
Tap 2. Does that U have another vowel 1 or 2 doors down? Nope, so it's not going to introduce itself and say its name. It's just going to say its normal.
Supply.
Very good.
Butterfly.
Beautiful. Now I can tell, I think that you are already underlining all of those in your sentences, aren't you? Good job. How's your little nose doing? Not so good. So here, just to try to cheer her up just a little bit, even though she's pretty cheerful even when she's sick, I tried to tell her a joke, even though I am the world's worst joke teller. And as expected, my joke failed, so she tried to tell me one.
Tell you one.
Okay.
Knock.
What?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Interrupting cow!
Ooh.
Such a fun, cute joke, but so hard over the computer. So well over the computer because there's a delay, but I do love that joke. Maybe I know 2 jokes. Okay, now I'm just going to let you listen in on the rest of our lesson. To strongly suggest something without coming right out and saying it. So it's like, okay, let's say I'm going to tell you I love Christmas without telling you I love Christmas. I'm going to imply it. So this is what that would be like. Brooklyn, when Christmas comes around, I have the Christmas tree up probably on Halloween Day. Yes, I'm one of those. And I immediately have the Christmas tree candle burning, and we put the decorations up, and I sing Christmas songs all day long. Now, did I come right out and say, I love Christmas? I didn't, but it was implied. So I suggested something without coming right out and saying it. That's imply. What would
we going to do today? We are going to do decorations for Halloween.
Yo! Very cool. So what can you put next to imply that will remind you what that means? What can you draw there?
No idea. I need to get a new pencil. Into them.
Well, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Next.
Oh. I need to go to the Chris's.
Tap 2 on that first eye.
Crisis.
Very good. Very good. What's a crisis?
I don't.
I'll use
something kind of.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bad emergency.
Oh, that happened when I had to go to like ballet or something. There was like a car crash.
Ooh, that's not good. Yeah, that would be a crisis for sure. Okay, next one after crisis.
Justify.
Oh, I love how you did that. You figured out those vowels as you went. Good job. Justify. Do you have any idea what that means? If you justify something, it means you talk yourself into thinking that something is a good idea when you know deep down that it's really not. Like, Okay. Today, Brooklyn, I justified that it would be okay to have about probably 40 or 50 M&Ms. I just justified it. I said, I haven't had any sugar all day, so I'm sure this is just going to be just fine. And then guess who got a stomach ache about 5 minutes later? This girl. Yeah, so justify is when you try to tell yourself that something's really fine when you know deep down it's probably not a good idea. So what can you draw next to justify that?
M&Ms.
Okay.
Because you were talking about M&Ms. Now I want M&Ms, and I don't have M&Ms.
They were pretty good, I'm not gonna lie.
Enter.
You got all the way up to the T.
Intender.
You got all the way up to the N, the second N.
Intern.
Oh, there's an R that slipped in there.
Intensify.
I knew you could do it. Okay, now here's an example of Y in the middle of a word. And sometimes the Y will be in the middle of the word. It's because we borrowed that word from the Greek language. Greeks didn't use I's in the middle. They didn't use the letter I in the middle of the words. They used a Y in the middle of a word. So whenever you see a word with a Y in the middle, you know that we borrowed that from the Greek language. But it sounds just like an I would, and it follows the same rules as an I would. So because this Y has a silent E at the very end, and if you can do the tattoo just on this Y like you would on an I, what is this I going to say? This Y, I mean.
I.
Yep, I just said that. Good job. So what would that word say?
Hi.
Perfect. Have you ever read that word before? No, but you read it perfectly the first time because you knew how. You knew the rules. Good job.
I have no idea what that means.
Hype means to energize or to give a lot of, like if you're going to hype up a party, you're going to go in the middle and you're going to start clapping and you're going to say, come on, everybody, let's dance. And you're going to get them all hyped up and energized. Have you ever heard of a kid being called hyper? And what is that? What does hyper make you think of?
Like full of energy.
Exactly. And that's what hype is, full of energies. That's what hyper comes from, is the word hype. It's energized. So what can you draw next to hype that will remind you what that word means?
My dog.
Your dog is Mira kind of hyper? A lot? Okay, last word.
Multiply.
And I know you know what multiply means, but pretend I am a student and you're the teacher and you're trying to explain to me what the word multiply means. But how would you say it?
Do I have to do they know the word or?
Oh.
Yes.
Teacher, what does multiply mean?
Multiply means, let me show you. So a multiply by 1 equals, it equals 8 because how many times does 8 go into 1?
Oh, I see. So 8 times 1 is how many is 8 one time?
Mm-hmm.
So 8 one time is 8.
Mm-hmm.
You're such a good teacher. Thanks for teaching me. And one more thing.
Yes.
Teacher, I know you already taught me this, but I forgot. How do I know what Y will say at the end of a word? Like, I don't know what it will say most of the time at the end of a longer word or a shorter word.
And a shorter word,
Yeah.
I.
Okay.
And the longer word would see E.
Okay, now is that all the time?
No.
Oh. So
So multiply.
okay, so sometimes it'll say I at the end of longer words like multiply. That was so Thanks for teaching me, Brooklyn, and for being so amazing. You remembered everything that you were taught today. Who's brilliant? Give yourself a high five. Pat on the back. Say, I'm great.
I'm great.
See you next time.